All right, welcome back to math. Today we are reviewing everything decimals. You all will have a quiz on decimals tomorrow, okay? So today we're going to review. You guys on Friday were masters of decimals, so don't forget that, okay? So everything we're doing today, if it seems hard, should you listen? Yeah. If it seems easy, is it good review? Yep. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. All right, so first, people at home, you should be on page 240 in the instruction book. And I scrolled past the example. You know you can always look at them. But we have an easy one first. Good review. What is 7/10 written as a fraction? And even if you just read it out loud, does it kind of give it away? Mm-hmm. Okay, it kind of gives it away. Noah, how would I write it? 7/10, okay? Now, we need to show our work. How could we show our work? Josiah?
With the thing that says ones and then dot and then tenths.
Okay, so we could show something out like that. I would still have trouble showing that it's connected to a fraction. What else do we know? Emma?
Number line.
Number line. Okay, our favorite. Make your number line. You all are getting way better at these, though. So I'm going to go from 0 to 1.
It's tenths.
It is tenths. Next time, raise your hand. But how did I know to use tenths to label my number line? Emma, what do you think?
Because there's a 0.
Okay, so we don't have one whole thing, but how do I know to use tenths? Noah?
Because if that goes up 3 more and the one's over there, if you take off the dot, it would be 10. And you know that because there's only 2 things.
Yes. Okay, when we work with decimals, you're only going to ever do tenths or hundredths, okay? That kind of makes it easy. And we don't have hundredths, right? We only have tenths. So we know to do tenths. So I'm going to split it up and do my fractions on the bottom. Everyone should be working with me. Make sure you get your fractions done. Then we got to do our decimals. So we can show that we knew 7/10 as a decimal is the same as 7/10 as a fraction. And for 1, I am going to put 10/10 because we know that that means the same thing. So once you've got your fractions on the bottom, you can put your decimals on the top. So I know that 1/10 as a decimal is 0.1, and then so on. And if you're like me, sometimes you run out of space. Here's a tip. You can write one of them up higher like this, and then one of them lower like this, and then one of them up a little higher, and one of them down a little lower. That helps me fit them all in there a little better. I will give everyone about 30 more seconds, make sure that is finished. And then before I show you, try to show on your own number line where 7/10 would be. Hayden, did you find it? Mm-hmm. Yep. Pretty easy to find. You just got to mark it. So you could mark it with a point. You could circle the whole thing. Remember, we're just showing our work to show how we understand this. So I'm just going to be extra clear. In our solution, they wanted us to write 7/10 as a fraction. So can we just write 7/10 down here? Mm-hmm. Yep. So this stuff really isn't hard, but you've got to remember, like if it says to show your work, if you didn't show your work, you'd probably lose a half a point, okay? Any questions on how we made our number line? I think we're all getting better at these. Okay, next page.
I can solve this.
All right, number 16. Does someone want to read it for me? Hayden, go for it.
The number line below shows 1 whole divided into tenths. Write numbers in the boxes to label the missing fractions and decimals. Explain how you know what numbers to write.
Okay, we're getting even more practice. Do you think you might see a number line on your test?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're practicing so hard. So this should be quick. You only have to fill in the boxes that are missing, okay? So fill in the boxes, check with me, make sure you got them right, or make sure I didn't make a mistake. And once you're done, start thinking about this last part of our question, which is the hard part. But we can do it. We need to explain how we knew what numbers to write. So I'll let everyone think a minute. How could we explain that? So if you want to save your arm blood, you've got 20 seconds to think. All right. Josiah, how can we explain how we knew what to write up there?
We just basically counted up with the dots and
So we could count up by 1/10.
equivalent fractions and equivalent
Decimals?
decimals, and I accidentally put 0.9 on the top on the last one.
Okay, that's all right, as long as they're both on there. All right, I really like Josiah's explanation. He used two different things. First of all, like we knew this was 0.9 because we can count, right? Basically, we said, well, this would be 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, but we can still say that, okay? So we know that our number line is counting up by tenths. That's a good way to begin. So please write with me. We know the number line is counting by tenths. Tenths, yes. And the part he said about equivalent fractions and decimals, that's important, right? That's how we knew when we saw 3/10 as a decimal to write 3/10 as a fraction. So we also know, or you can use your own words, we also know how to find equivalent fractions and decimals. And if you've got your own words, even better, but there are some helpful phrases maybe for you. So get something written down. Those of you just sitting, I hope you're already done, not just wasting time. I will leave it there. I'm going to go scroll up though, so I'm ready for the next one. I'll give you 10 more seconds on that.
Can we put DEC for decimals?
On something like this, when you're taking notes, that is fine. When do you guys think it's important we write out our full words? Angie?
On a test.
On a test, any sort of assessment you do when you write a paper. But yeah, is it good when you're doing just practice and taking notes to use shorthand sometimes to speed it up? Absolutely. Not probably in 5th grade, but once you get to middle school, you'll have to take a lot of notes during class. So if you wrote every single word out long, it would take a lot longer. Do you have to take a lot of notes at Purdue?
Yeah, a lot.
Yes, so she knows. She's at Purdue right now, so learning how to write fast and take good notes is a good skill. All right, moving on, number 17. Someone want to read that for me? Noah.
What decimal names the same amount as 50 hundredths? Circle the letter of the correct answer.
Okay, now remember, we don't do this willy-nilly. We go through systematically, which means we have a plan. All right, first of all, we need a decimal that is 50 hundredths. All right, just saying it out loud, does that kind of help us get us on the right track? Okay, this is what I would think. If I have 50 hundredths, what would that equal as a decimal? It's less than one whole thing, so I know I'm going to have a 0 point something. All right. Now, if I was going to have a hundreds grid, you all don't have to draw this, but I want you to remember. Pretend this is 10 and this is 10. Okay, I have 50 filled in. Is that half of my grid? It is. So do I have 10s, Angie?
No.
Think carefully. You were real good at this on Friday. I did this really fast, but would I have 5 columns shaded in if I did 50 of those little squares? because each one's 10, right? So if I have 5 of those, I do have something in my tens place. Remember, I've got 5 columns. Do I have anything in my hundredths place, Abby?
0.
0. All right, remember, this is what I recommend. Before you look at your answer options, work it out yourself a bit. Does that look pretty good? Okay. Did it say circle all the letters, or do we only have one answer? Noah?
I'm gonna have 1.
Only one. Okay, so that one looks pretty good, but let's make sure the others aren't good. Will this one work?
No.
Angie?
No, because and Abby chose B, and I think it was because she thought it was 5 over.
Okay, so we'll get down to there, not the Abby in our class, to be clear. Okay, so this fraction would actually look like this, 5 over 100. So that one won't work. Get rid of B. Okay, why won't C work? I need someone different that hasn't been sharing much. Look at C. Cadence, why won't that work? We would have a lot on the top, right? More than 100, because this is 50 whole things. And all I've got right here is half of one thing. Okay, so that will not work. All right, and if that one won't work, this one won't work either, right? All right, so we were right. A is the answer. Now let's think about Abby, not the one in our class. We're not picking on you. Abby, we can say it's me, okay? Abby chose B. So she picked the 5/100ths answer. Why do you think she got that answer? So think about yourself. You're the teacher. Hayden, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking she got that answer because she thought she took away the 0.
Okay, she wasn't thinking about the 0. It's one way to think about it. Josiah?
She thought the 0 had no value, so she just took it away.
I think that's probably what she did. If you had a 0 on the front of that answer, that would be a 5, right? But we know when we put a 0, whoop, I'm getting a smear. When we put a 0 on the right side of a digit, it does affect the value. So I think that's a great way to explain it. Any other ideas before I start writing? Abby?
I think she may have got mixed up of where like the hundreds or the 5s.
Okay, you could talk about place value. You could say, I think she thought she was using hundredths when really she had tenths. Okay? So however you want to write it, you can borrow some of my words if you want to. But I will start by saying Abby chose B because we always want to restate our question. And you can do B/C because this is practice. I should see pencils moving. Some of you are getting lazy. Pencils moving. Let's go, guys. I'm still not seeing pencils in our hands writing. Yes?
I said I chose B because.
Okay. Abby chose B because... And you can write something different if you'd like. She didn't understand.
Wait, what was her spelling like?
Hayden, we're doing another now. Been writing with me, you should be about done.
Wait, we're doing another page?
Yep. These are all really fast. These are the review questions for the test. These will help you the most. but a lot less writing. These are multiple choice, so we're going to practice our strategies together so you'll be ready for your test. All right, number 1. I want everyone to try this on your own first. I'll give you about, I don't know, 10, 15 second head start, and then we're going to go over it. So what is 75 hundredths written as a fraction? Right, go through here. Hopefully right away all of us said not A because they used a decimal in a fraction, which you cannot do. Okay, so A is out of there. 10 more seconds. I'm going to call on a victim, someone that hasn't been answering questions. All right, Cadence, which one do you think? I can't hear you. D? All right, well, D, do we have hundredths in the bottom? No. So we could do that if we had 7 tenths, but we have 75 hundredths. So it can't be D. Madeline, what do you think?
And C.
C. I think I agree. Madeline, how'd you know that?
Because when there's a 0 and there's 2 digits, then that means there's 100.
Very good. Okay, we knew that we were to the hundredth place. I'm making everything with TH now. The hundredth place. So we needed to have 100 as our denominator. Okay, it can't be B because that's saying we have nothing, right? And we do have something. All right, number 2. Which fraction and decimal are equivalent? Circle all that apply. Okay, go ahead, give it your best shot. Remember, equivalent means the same, so they show the same amount of the whole. Circle all that apply is pretty important. Okay, you're going to get a head start. Thank you, those of you that are using your time really wisely to review your math. Give you about 30 more seconds. If you finish, check them. Make sure you didn't make a silly mistake. Okay, so A. Let's just look through them. Will A work, Emma?
Yes.
Yes, she says. All right, well, I've got 4 tenths. Does that decimal give me tenths or hundredths? I'm asking one other person, and her name is Emma. Just think about that. If I have 4, this is like 4 of my tiny cubes filled in out of 100 things. And this would be 4 whole columns filled in, okay? So if it's 4 tenths, remember that number needs to be in the tenths place. Does that make sense? Okay, so it can't be A. All right, what about B? What do you guys think about B? Josiah?
No,
No, you're right. Why not?
because it would have to be 0. It would have to be 0.06.
You're right. To be hundredths, right? Because we don't even have anything in the tenths place, only the hundredths place. Okay, so it can't be that. All right, what about C? Angie?
Yes.
Yeah, she's right. We have 3 tenths and 3 in our tenths place. So that one works. All right, this one we have 9 hundredths, and we have this decimal, which I don't want to read. I'll give it away. Abby?
Yes.
It does work, okay? We don't have any tenths here. We don't have any tenths here, but we've got a hundredth. Okay, so that one works. One more. Ugh, what a weird answer. Hayden?
No, because it's basically, it's not saying the right thing. It's saying 7 point.
Yeah, this 7's like a whole number, right? So that's saying we have 7 whole things and something left over. And this is saying we have less than one thing, so no. Okay, so C and D. Any questions on that one? This is a lot of what you'll see tomorrow, okay? So if you're struggling on that, you will practice tonight. You can keep working. Number 3. Model A is shaded to represent a value that is less than one whole thing. All right, so first of all, how many cubes are shaded? Noah?
80.
80. Okay, so I could write this 80 out of 100, or 0.80, 80 hundredths. Or, could I write it like tenths? How many total tenths do I have if I wanted to write it as tenths? So that's when I'm counting my columns. Might call a victim. Madeline, how many columns do we have filled in our model?
What are we on?
We're on number 3. So each column goes all the way up that's filled. How many do we have filled?
8.
8. So if I wanted to write it like a fraction with tenths, it would be 8/10, or we can write 8/10 as a decimal. All right, so we need to choose yes or no to indicate whether the value of the shaded part is equivalent to what they wrote down here. Do you think this will help me answer my question?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, you guys, a lot of you aren't really listening. When you take your test, I would do this before you look at your answers. It'll really help. So 8/10, does that show this?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
Yeah, we know that. I have it written down. What about 80/100ths? Does that work, Josiah?
Yes.
Yes, I have that written down. What about 8/100ths written like this? Abby?
No.
No. Do you think maybe if you hadn't done this, that might have tricked you? Just be very careful, okay? So that one will not work. That only shows 8/100ths. All right. One more page. You guys are doing great. All right. Last page. All right. This time we get to do some shading. But luckily, we don't have to draw that 100 grid on our own, which is nice. All right, does someone want to read about Cora and her test with 100 questions? So you guys shouldn't feel so bad tomorrow. Zoe?
A test has 100 questions. Cora got 85 questions correct. What decimal shows the part of the test she answered correct? What decimal shows the part of the test she answered incorrectly? Model the decimal.
Okay. So let's mark it up. You guys know how to do this? Check up here. Make sure you've found everything important. All right. So we have 100 questions. She got 85 right, and we've got basically 2 questions to answer, right? First thing, we need to show the decimal that shows the part she got right. So if I have 100 squares here, how many do I need to shade in for her correct answers? Cadence? 85. Now, we do not need to shade 85 individual squares. So box it off, okay? So I can count 8 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know I've got 80 all the way filled in. So I'm going to do that first. Just shade it the best you can. If you draw the nice, neat lines around the outside edge, I can tell what you mean. And then she did have 5 more. So we've got to add 5 more. All right. So we modeled it. And now we need to say what decimal shows the part she got correct. So for my solution, I'm going to write correct with an equal sign and leave some space and then incorrect. So who wants to take a stab? What decimal shows the correct part of the test?
Why did you shade in 4 more?
Well, she got 85 right. So I shaded 8 full columns to make 80, and then I needed 5 more, right? So I have 85. So I know my fraction is going to look like this for the correct side. So how do I write that as a decimal? Noah?
0.85.
0.85 or 85/100ths. All right. So then this part is incorrect. So the first thing I would do is count my boxes, okay? So I know I've got a 10 and a 5. So I've got 15 out of 100 that she got wrong. So how am I going to write that as a decimal? Abby? 0.15 or 15/100ths. Questions on that? No? Okay. All right, well, I scroll up. Someone can read number 5 nice and loud about Kelly. Kelly and her coins. Noah, nice and loud.
Kelly found some dimes and pennies in her dad's car. She found 5 coins in all. The coins totaled more than 20 cents, but less than 50 cents. What coins could Kelly have found? Write the amount as a fraction of a dollar and as an equivalent decimal. Model the fraction and decimal below.
Okay, I'm going to work through this at my pace. I'm not going to give a lot of slow time because we're running out of time before special. So, pencil in hand, ready to go.
Or marker.
Oh, or marker, yes. All right, she found some dimes and pennies. Okay, we know dimes are 10 cents, pennies are 1 cent. It's good to know. She found 5 coins in all, so I'm going to write 5 coins. It helps me to see it out here instead of up here sometimes. The coins totaled more than 20 cents, less than 50 cents. I'm going to write that to the side too. So it's in between 20 cents, more than that, less than 50 cents. It's in between here somewhere. So it could be 21 cents all the way up to 49 cents, right? Those are my only choices in between 20 and 50. You guys following that part? What coins could Kelly have found? Do you think there's more than one right answer?
Yes.
There could be. And we need to write the amount as a fraction of a dollar and as a decimal. All right, 5 coins in between 21 and 49. There are a lot of different options here, okay? I'm just going to pick one. How about we do 3 dimes? That'd put me at 30 cents, okay? So write with me. If we had 3 dimes, I would have 3/10 of a dollar. Can we shade that on here? 3/10. Okay, if I have 3 of them, that's 3 whole 10 bars. Let's shade that in first. And just so you guys know, this is like a hard practice question. You won't have one like this on the test, but it does help to practice hard. It'll make your test feel easier. All right, so I've got 3 coins. How many coins do I have to have? Noah?
5.
5. So how many pennies do I need to add? Abby?
20.
Well, I have to have 5 coins. So far, I've only got 3.
Or
2 pennies. So if I add 2 pennies, that would be 0.02 because that's only 2 boxes, right? Because a penny is only 1 cent. A dime is 10. Now let's see if we met all the criteria. We have 5 coins, right? 2 dimes, or 3 dimes, 2 pennies, that's 5 coins. Is my amount in between 21 cents and 49 cents? I can tell you guys are getting sleepy, but yes, you're nodding. All right, so now we need to write the amount as a fraction of a dollar and as an equivalent decimal. So Kelly could have found, so far we said that she found 32 cents. If I add this together, I know I'm going fast, guys. We just have to go soon.
Question.
Yes?
Where it says 2 pennies, how did you get 2 over 100? Because I can.
Okay, because pennies are only 1 cent. Remember, Angie, a dime is 10 cents. So we had 3 dimes. So for each dime, I could do a whole row of 10. Okay? Does that make sense so far? Remember, a dime is worth 10, right? 10 dimes make a dollar. So if I have 10 here, and 10 here, that's 3 dimes. That makes 30 cents. So 3/10. The penny is so tiny, they only fill 1 box at a time. So I only have 2/100ths. All right? So this... If you're not understanding this perfectly, it's okay. It's very tricky. So the fraction would be 32/100ths. The decimal, you read it the same way, it just looks different. Okay? So your test will not be quite this hard, okay? But all the other questions we did, you could expect to see on your test. Those of you at home, thanks for joining, and I will see you tomorrow.